Hey everybody, it's Thene Sheehy. Welcome again to my next podcast. Today's podcast is about storytelling in a business or agile setting. So remember to stay tuned to the end of the video because I'll be giving you links to the cards that I'm going to talk about, as well as the other related videos that I use as a part of this presentation. Today's podcast, like I said, is about storytelling, and I use storytelling in a 2-hour workshop that I do for some local teams. So if you are interested in that, you can message me later through YouTube or through my website or through Facebook or LinkedIn, anywhere you like. So back to where we are. So stories are our oldest art form that we have in the world. We see stories begin as cave paintings. We have those here in Portugal. Of course, we also have them in Spain and France and probably in other parts of the world. They are quite amazing to see. And you can tell that even in those oldest days, people are trying to tell stories to their friends and their family about what occurred out on the hunt, the journey, the pain, the struggle, where they got to, what they accomplished, and what sort of pain and accomplishment they got at the end of that trip. So today, in these days, we now tell stories for a variety of other reasons. We have stories that we tell to children. We have our faith-based books, the Bible, the Quran, etc., which we start telling to our children very young, and we read and read and reread them over and over again. We also use photographs often to tell stories, to make a memory marker so that we have a visual element to tell our friends and family about where we were and what we've done. Originally, of course, the art form was pictures only. Then they added verbal, and of course, then the written word came later. Today, we focus a lot with stories that are primarily visual and written or audible through movies, and also nowadays through advertisements on television and on the internet. So some of the strongest ads are really stories about why you should buy the product. So this why is an important element to remember. So I'm going to be inserting a slide here about why we really make and how we tell stories and why we tell stories. So let me flip over to that screen for a moment. So in the slide that you see here, you see two things: a photograph, which may elicit some sort of emotion from you. So let's talk about why that is. So we tell stories to create some sort of connection to the photograph, to the people in the story, the characters in the story. We're trying to perhaps change opinions or clarify the future or explain the past. Perhaps in a lot of movies and ads, we're trying to delight and create some sort of imagination for the reader or the viewer. And in many cases, we're trying to create a call to action. Remember these elements, they apply to our business stories in the Agile setting as well. So in this particular photograph, taken by a really great photographer, Jesco Denzel, you can see that we have two young people. One's a little boy, probably 5, 6, 7 years old, and someone is teaching him to smoke. And this might create, perhaps if you're an American, it might create some anger or frustration in you. It might create a call to action. However, if you're in southern France, which is where this photo takes place, this is a memory of your culture and of what is sanctioned and enjoyed in your culture. Now, clearly this is okay for boys, but clearly this particular girl has quite an attitude about what she thinks about this whole encounter. So it creates some sort of humor, but out of it, it may create some sort of call to action. And the same feelings and emotions and the why we can create in our business stories as well. So let me stop the share of that. So the elements in the story are important as well. So as I mentioned, we have the characters, of course. We have the setting in which our story takes place. We have the plot line itself, the conflict that occurs, and the resolution. But as important as all of those 5 elements is the storyteller themselves. So if you are in your business setting and you have been asked to tell a story, perhaps you're the product owner trying to tell the story of your feature or user story to the team or to other stakeholders, remembering who are the characters, that is your personas in the story, in a user story, remembering the setting in which those characters will be, the plot line, perhaps that's a story map, a user journey map, remembering the conflicts that they will come across, and understanding what is the resolution you want to give them is part of how you build the story. Now, if you are perhaps a Scrum Master, then the people you are likely telling your story about are the team. They are the team members who have come through the journey of what's occurred in the last sprint, what's occurred in the last month, over the last couple of sprints. How has the team grown in its journey of teamwork? How is it doing in accomplishing the goals that it has set out for itself in terms of becoming a higher level of flow, a higher level of productivity, a higher level of communication? What sort of conflicts and roadblocks have they come across? Are any of those recurring? Should we be giving any tools to the team to fight the impediments more consistently or more quickly? So those, as a Scrum Master, might be the types of stories you're telling. As the team members themselves, you sometimes will be telling the story about how you journeyed through the course of the last some period of time, sprint, or maybe a month, or the last 3 months. Sometimes you will be actually the recipient of the story from the product owner. So your goal is to understand the elements of the story so that if you don't hear those, if you don't get the why, if you don't get the emotional connection to why you're building this product or this particular feature, you can ask about those things. These are the things that create the personal passion for us to actually do our work every day, is to understand what is the intention of what we're building and what's the why behind what we're building. So the magic behind how the story is told is really in the connection that we create to the characters, the setting and the outcome, the journey, the goal. The how you make me care about the story, the motivation of those characters, the motivation of me as the person who sent you out on the journey. If I were the product owner, I'm sending you out on the journey to create this thing for the purpose of the eventual users of this product or this component, so that they will actually have a better journey of their own. So why did we start on the journey? What has been the journey? What has been the good parts and the bad parts of the journey? And ultimately, what do we learn from the journey itself? What do we learn about the recurring impediments and roadblocks? And what do we learn about ourselves? And what can we improve so that the next time we take a similar journey, we can do better? So some of this, as you might consider, is very much aligned to Stephen Sinek's book, Why. Start with why. So his golden circle, I'll give you a link to this at the end. He has a great TED talk about this. So this why, this understanding the why, whether it's the why of the user story, the why of the feature, or it's the why of the Scrum team, the team. How did we get here? Why did we get here? Why are we behaving? Why are we not perhaps performing as we should? What has been our struggle along the journey, and why has that occurred? And how could we do better the next time? So it aligns to Stephen Sinek's why. It also aligns to Daniel Pink's drive. So in Daniel Pink's book called Drive, we have 3 elements that help us. It creates our drive in life, or our drive to come to work every day and do what we do every day, so many hours of every day. So in Daniel Pink's book, his drive is built by purpose. Again, that's the why. Along with autonomy and mastery, which I'll try to cover in a different podcast perhaps. But I'll give you the link to those at the end as well. Daniel also has some nice websites and pages and videos. So again, so our goal therefore is to try to apply the why, as well as the journey, the struggles, and the milestones and the accomplishments through the course of the journey with some sort of personal connection to the characters in the story and the struggles they went through, so that we have more drive and more intention and more alignment to what we're doing. In the workshop, from here, we go to a session where we use some cards that are all about storytelling in a business setting. And I will give you the link to those cards at the end. They're 20 or 30 cards that provide different types of scenarios in which they help you through a certain type of scenario. What are the elements of the story? What's the flow of the story? How might you organize that flow a little bit differently depending on whether you're trying to create a call to action or to explain what's happened in the past, or to elevate a particular character in the story as being a hero. So depending on the type of purpose of your story, you might construct it in a slightly different way. So in the workshop, this is where we would move into having the teams actually work on certain scenarios, which I've actually created some scenarios around an Agile setting, but then we would use the cards as the structure of the story. So unfortunately, we can't do that on the podcast, but if you would like me to come present that kind of a workshop to your team, let me know. Otherwise, I hope that this podcast has been helpful to you. As I said, I'll be providing the links to the videos and to the cards in case you want to get those yourself. Remember to like, follow, share if you really like it, and subscribe to the channel. I'll try to keep making short little podcasts to help us all along in the journey. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.